Alrighty, welcome to the Cranston Public Library's Teen Community Forum. My name is Alyssa and I'm the Teen Librarian for Cranston Public Library. And here with me today is Cranston's Mayor, Allan Fung. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks so much, Alyssa, for this invitation. Very excited to be here. I'm getting so adept now at this virtual world that we're living in. And it's kind of strange, though, I have to say, broadcasting from my kitchen instead of my office. But, it's the same thing that everyone's going through right now.
Yes, we're getting little snapshots of people's houses when we normally wouldn't see what they look like. All right, so for those of you who are tuning in, the way that this works, we've spent the last 2 weeks collecting questions from local Cranston teens, and we were really excited by the response that we got, but unfortunately we got so many questions that we couldn't possibly answer them all in 1 hour. So what I did was I went through and I grouped all the questions into like categories. So hopefully, even if I don't ask your exact question, hopefully you will get an answer to that question. So, all right, Mayor Fung, are you ready?
Fire away, I'm all set.
Awesome. All right, so before we get into questions, could you maybe just give us a little bit of information about yourself, your background, and how you became the mayor of Cranston?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And it's been a long road that I've been proud to be mayor of Cranston, 12 years now. Actually, I got first elected in 2008, and I had served 2 terms on the city council and ended up running for mayor. Didn't win the first time, lost in the closest race in city history, but this was a job that I knew I wanted to help so many people. And I came back the next year, ended up winning, and here I am in my 4th term. I'm actually an attorney by trade. I grew up in Providence, born and raised. My parents were first generation to this country. I was born in Rhode Island. So I'm a native Rhode Islander. So I drop my R's after I talk. And, I love Dell's Lemonade during the summer. Good Cranston company, by the way. And I've been, proud to serve the city for 12 years now. And this is the last 7 months of my term. And through it all, where we've started from, dealing with the devastating floods that, had half of the city, underwater, to the high times where right now the city is on its feet fiscally, but we're also facing one of the biggest lows, not only in Cranston's times, but across our country and across our globe. So through it all, I've loved serving as mayor, utilize the background that I have as a lawyer, but also coming from a small business background. My parents, when they first came to this country, started a small Chinese restaurant that they ran in Cranston for 35 years. I grew up in there. So Cranston's had a long place in my heart. And when my parents could finally move into it, they did. And, they've been, part of the Cranston landscape for generations now.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so our first question is from Amber, and she would like to know, how are you and your family doing during this crisis?
Well, my wife and I are unfortunately also caught up in the COVID crisis. I'm not sure if you heard or not, but my wife is in the healthcare, and she works not only at Rhode Island Hospital, but also in some rehab facilities up in Massachusetts. And probably just over a week and a half ago, she got a positive diagnosis when she went to one of the tests after she had developed one of the symptoms. And since then, the 2 of us have been isolated at home and, making the best of it, just like everyone else. And hopefully it's going to be, done soon. But it is kind of a difficult time because the 2 of us are here. I'm working a lot more virtually. We have to sleep, unfortunately, in separate bedrooms. So she's trying to protect me. And fortunately, I haven't had any symptoms, but I've been able to work through my work laptop with a separate VPN, having a couple phones going. But it's been different for me. I've been able to, do a lot of stuff here, but just my world's upside down because I'm so used to being at City Hall, out and about with the public. And just being in our ranch home, it's a little different. It's also kind of a little difficult from a family perspective too, because I have an elderly mom, I have a little sister that's disabled as well, And it's tough because for these past week and a half, I haven't been able to go check on them. Fortunately, I've got another sister that's been doing that. And, we've had family members dropping off food too. So the community's been so kind on top of, helping my family.
Well, I hope that your wife is feeling better soon. I'm sure that's very, scary, especially being a healthcare worker. My mom's a nurse, so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
definitely, it's always, nerve wracking. But thank you. And it sounds like you're experiencing similar stuff that a lot of people are going through right now.
Absolutely. It was kind of a little strange, to deliver my state of the city budget address, a few days ago, from the same spot. And, that was going to be my last one. I was thinking I was doing it from my office, but, things happen.
Alrighty, so our next question is actually our most frequent question that we received, and I don't think anyone's surprised. It's about schools.
Yeah.
So teens are wondering, will schools reopen in the fall, or will they continue with distance learning? And if schools do reopen, what sort of plan would be in place to keep everyone safe?
Well, right now, my administration has been working extremely well with Superintendent Nana Massey. She's doing an excellent job. Her administrators, her staff, all the principals, all the teachers, to transition into distance learning at such a quick pace. They did a lot of yeoman's work in a short time frame to make sure it happens. And we all know there's been some hiccups that have gone through the process, but they have put together a phenomenal plan to make sure that every student has that opportunity to continue learning, whether it's elementary school, middle school, or even students in high school. They're still working on the end of year transition right now. We've been having dialogues with her and her team about, graduation exercises, the honor ceremonies, because this, for many of the seniors, we get it. It's horrible times and they're losing out on something, a rite of passage that all of us has had. We don't want them to, lose it and all of a sudden get a diploma in the mail. So we're trying to work with the Department of Education right now to get whatever we can get as guidance so that we can give them, a memory. It's not going to be the one that we all experience, but at least a memory of to celebrate what they've done. On top of that, they're starting to plan for next year too. It's still a little bit early, but they're going to try to get that transition planning for, September. In speaking with the superintendent, she's going to get a team together from, all the teachers unions, her staff, incorporate some from the city so that we all get the input and follow, most importantly, the guidance that's coming down, that's always changing from the governor's office, the Department of Education, because it's got to be a comprehensive plan that we put together to ensure that it's safe for the students so that, we're hoping that we get them back into the schools for September. And that's our goal and plan so that we can do it in a safe way. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. In fact, just taking a step back right now at City Hall, we're trying to make that transition too, because at some point the governor's going to relax and we're scrambling trying to, buy even like the plexiglass to put in for customers that come in. And I know the schools are going to have to do that. They have a little bit more time, but they have to think about even those little extra precautions for the students, but also the teachers and everyone that goes through the hall. So it will be a little bit different, but our goal is to try to get them into the classroom best extent possible.
Awesome. I'm sure that is very reassuring for a lot of our teens. I know that they just want to be with their friends and their teachers and their school community. So I'm sure that's very, relieving for a lot of them to hear that it's being worked on. All right, our next question comes from Madison. And she says, I love summer. It's my favorite time of the year. And I was wondering if beaches will be closed this summer to the public.
Yeah, that's a great question, Madison. In fact, I'm on a daily call with the governor's office and all the mayors and town administrators across Rhode Island. So there's, 40 to 50 of us every single day on a standing call. And we're talking not just with the governor's office, since, the governor chimes in too, but also a lot of the administrators, and especially on this question, the director of the Department of Environmental Management. Right now, they're focusing on the parks and the green space areas. this weekend. They've tried to keep most of them open right now so that people can still have some spaces to go walking, hiking a little bit, so that they can get out and enjoy the fresh air. And beaches are an important topic because not only are there state beaches that we've all gone to, but there are also local beaches, like say down in North Kingston, Narragansett. And so the towns are trying to get guidance too. Ultimately, we're trying to find the best way to try to do it so it doesn't look like the scenes out of, I think we saw in California, where they opened it up one day, everyone just mobbed the beach, and then the governor was forced to close it the next day. We don't want stuff like that happening. We want to do it so that you know what's expected of you. In fact, locally, I'm going to be, and I just issued an executive order opening back up the walking tracks for this weekend, because as everyone probably heard, governor is going to be lifting the stay-at-home order for the state. I'm lifting the stay-at-home order in Cranston this weekend when, it opens, but I want to be able to do it safely. So we put in some guidelines as to what people need to do. Wear the mask if people are around, keep 6 feet apart, no more than groups of 5 people right now. And we're hoping that as the summer rolls along and people are adhering to it, the state issues more guidelines so that we can open up the beaches safely, so people can just have a walk, maybe jump into the water and do what they can that we all enjoy, because it is the ocean state.
Well, I love that you mentioned opening up tracks, because I actually had another question specifically about tracks and being a cross-country runner and wanting to train for the upcoming season. So you answered a question before I could even ask it. So thank you.
Sure.
All right, our next question comes from Alexonia. And she said, what do you do as the mayor of Cranston?
Well, whether it's having fun on a Zoom call like this, or just even before, the past few days have been a little bit of crazy days, and every minute, every hour, it can be something different that comes up. I'm on the phone quite a bit with a lot of my staff talking about issues that pop up. Because we're in this COVID crisis right now, a lot of my day really is about talking to my staff about what's not only about what's going on in their departments, but how are they helping our residents during this crisis. So generally, I wake up very early. I'm usually up by 5:30, 6 o'clock. I make sure I read the paper to know what's going on, not just in Cranston, but across the state and across the world. I do a little digital catch up. I wish people a happy birthday on Facebook. I end up, responding back on Twitter sometimes too. And then once the day kind of gets going, normally I'm in the office by 8:30, but because I'm here right now at home, I'm on my laptop. I'm working on different things, and I'll give you a window of just like what today's like, and that was different from yesterday. Last night I was up until 11 o'clock at night working on a draft executive order because I knew the governor was going to be relaxing the stay-at-home order, and I was going to open up our walking tracks. So I was working this morning after I sent the draft out to my city solicitor, to my director of administration, to my Parks and Rec director, as well as to police who are going to have to enforce this, and my economic development director who's going to have to look after the businesses. All morning, we were going back and forth, whether it's by cell phone or whether it was on my laptop, like making fine tweaks, to that order. But then all of a sudden, I just thought of something just out of the blue where I'm like, oh, wait a minute. The governor's going to be talking about this later on. Let me get on the phone and make sure that my order is not going to conflict with theirs. So I had to, just kind of do a little shift, pick up that phone, send some of my language up to the governor's office. Their general counsel reviewed it and said, oh, you know what, maybe tweak it this way so that it stays consistent. So that's just one item that we were working on that took like hours going back and forth. But then before we just jumped on this call, I was also on the call with other mayors, talking about what's going on in cities and towns, talking about our budgets. To, even before that, I was on another Zoom call with a lot of my staff, because part of what we're trying to do is, restaurants are getting hurt badly across the state. We want to make sure that we're friends with them, help them through this tough time, and let them open, in case the governor's talking about at some point dine-in service. I've got a team right now from my economic development, police, fire, planning, inspections, all talking through these issues with, a councilman who's on a safety service, and also a different councilman who's in the restaurant business, making sure we get everything right so that they can have the right guidance, so that, what, when governor opens it up, we're going to be ready. They can be open, and it's not going to be they're running to us at that time and we don't know how to answer to them. So that's some of the proactive stuff we got to think about in this position as mayor, to even answering constituent complaints. So if anyone has a pothole that needs to be filled, pick up the phone, hit me up on Twitter, Facebook. But that's the life.
I like that you examples. Because it's like a nice reminder that, we're in this crisis, but, the city still is running, kind of in the background.
and even in the background, because less cars on our road, I'm just trying to be, proactive. I said, what, less cars on the road. We're going to start our road paving a lot earlier, especially those high traveled streets like, Doric Avenue. We paved Doric Avenue last week. This week we're up on South Comstock, which is another cut through. So why not take advantage of opportunities to try to get things done for all of our residents? That's just, part of the cool part of my job. You got to think ahead.
Alrighty, our next question is from Gray, and he wants to know, how is Cranston enforcing social distancing?
Oh, that's a little bit of a challenge. And for the most part, our Cranston residents have been wonderful. A lot of people are adhering to the orders. They're wearing the mask too. Even before the governor had, put out the cloth face mask order, a few days ago, a lot of people were taking this very seriously. And Cranston was one of the ones that was hit hard early. I think for all those Cranston West students, a lot of those teens that are from West that submitted questions, you know what I'm talking about. Outside of St. Ray's and Pawtucket, we were one of the first cases where we had a situation out of West where we had to shut the school down. We asked 1,700 people, not just the students, but a lot of the faculty, staff too at West, to self-quarantine for 14 days. And it's not easy. I'm going through it right now, so I know what you're experiencing. But I think because we went through that, and one of the things that I found that was helpful was, we also saw some people who weren't necessarily adhering to the self-quarantine. They were out and about, not taking this seriously because it was early. They didn't know how much of an impact it really was. I jumped on social media. I did these little videos, not trying to lecture the students, because that's not me, first of all, but I was trying to talk to them about, look, this is serious. You could maybe not impact another student, but you could impact your mom and dad or your grandparents who, they're the ones that get hit hard on this, or anyone of your friends that might have like an underlying health condition, or people with disabilities. And it's not about a time of thinking about yourself. It's about, thinking about others. So I did videos like that. I also tried to throw in a little humor. I don't know how many of you saw that video with the other Italian mayors, and I kind of had that cut in. It was a little fun to kind of do it, and it exploded on social media. But that's one of the things I really love about the job, when you get creative to get the message out, and people have taken it seriously, because we were doing, talking to them, but also showing by example. We took the time to go to the different departments, police department, our municipal court, down to elections, to economic development, to get information out to a lot of the residents and business owners, so that, they're not left wondering, what do I do? Who do I call? And we gave them access to information, and that really helped with, not enforcing, but just like letting people know what the guidelines are, what the parameters they should be, and people have been listening. And if they haven't, Cranston Police have been out there, my office has been out there, just issuing gentle advice. Hey, can you please just watch your distance and space? And people have been complying, and that's the great thing about Cranston. We're Cranston strong. We care about each other. That's why I love being mayor of the city.
The library, we're all about like knowledge is power. So I like that you started with just making sure everyone was on the same page.
Yeah.
You touched a little bit on this already, but we had a lot of questions from seniors who are worried about graduation, really feeling that sense of loss right now. So is there anything that you can share about plans or even just, some words of encouragement for our seniors?
Yeah, I'm just so proud of all the seniors. Before I jumped on the Zoom call, I got a chance to chat with you, Alyssa, and this is one of the things that I know it's hard. I can't imagine what you're going through. You're losing out on a good chunk of the experience that we've all had. This is a new time, a new memory for you, not a positive memory, but we're going to make the best of it. And that's one of the things I can assure you. You're not just going to get a diploma in the mail. We're going to try to give you some experience, reward you with some type of honors night. And it's still early because we haven't finalized a lot of that. I think when I spoke a little bit earlier, when I touched upon it, that the superintendent and her staff and her team are trying the best that we can to try to codify what we're going to be doing to give you that experience. All I can say is hang in there. More information will be coming. We're working together to try to do what we can. And, we've heard from even, some of you about different suggestions that you've seen from other cities and towns across the country. And we're listening, we're running this up the chain to the Department of Ed and also Department of Health, because overall, they're the two entities that have to guide us to what we can do, whether we can do even anything in person, if it's streamed or anything. So that's, hang in there. I know what you're doing, but I just want to pivot a little bit and say, you know, both high schools, not only just the senior classes, all the students in the schools, I want to thank you. Thank you for taking the time to kind of give back to the community. I've seen Cranston West seniors, Cranston East, seniors and other classes donate money, raise money to give to our, food for our healthcare workers in nursing homes that are just like, really impacted hard every single day. Providing, food donations to first responders, chipping in to the food bank, which right now we're seeing people who are going to the food bank who've never been in that position before. So it's making a run on them. And I can't thank you enough. You guys really are stepping up. It means a lot to me. And know that I am proud to be mayor of a great city, knowing that our next generation, all of you, cares. And it gives me a lot of hope for the future.
Cranston Teens are pretty awesome.
Yes, they are.
Alrighty. So Danielle would like to know, how has being the mayor of Cranston impacted your life? And what's one thing that you're really proud of having accomplished as mayor?
Oh, wow. It's been, I would probably say, from a professional career standpoint, best job of my life. I really don't ever regret, making that leap of faith to do it. Even after, I had that initial setback where I, lost in the closest race. I knew this was a job that in my heart I wanted to have to help people. And I'm glad I did, from, the floods where we were pulling people out of their homes to, get them to safety, to the snowmageddon we had 5 years ago, to those microbursts, or even, last year when we had that chemical fire, to now what's going through. It's been challenging, but some of the most rewarding work that I've been able to do, because you're able to help people through some of their most difficult times. And it's definitely something that I will keep with me and cherish for, a lifetime. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find another job that's similarly as rewarding. Everyone knows I ran for governor because those are the same type of, responsibilities I'd love to have again. But it's really impacted my life in a meaningful way, and we'll see what the future holds going forward.
Awesome. Alrighty. So our next question is from Sam, and he wants to know, when will he be able to hang out with his friends again?
Well, it's challenging. We're waiting for a lot more of the guidance coming from the Department of Health and also Governor Raimondo. In fact, just this afternoon, we heard from her that she was lifting definitely the stay-at-home order for this weekend, but the only downside was she didn't increase the number for people to gather outside of that 5. So right now it is still 5. She's going to issue that order tomorrow from what we're hearing, because there might be some relaxation for, different types of church services or funeral type services. So we're all waiting and seeing what that executive order holds. We're going to keep following what, the Department of Health, because they see the data about how many people are still getting hospitalized, or how many other people that are getting impacted in our backyards. I'm following that as well every single day. In fact, I'm on with the Department of Health, finding out the latest guidance, but also tracking the data. And I'm keeping our city council up to date every single night. I do like an update to them about what we're doing in the city. But most importantly, so that they're informed, because I'm sure they're getting questions from many of their residents too. And that's all we can do. I wish I had a better answer for you, but right now it really is dependent on the state and how people are responding to the social distancing, because the social distancing has helped to kind of slow that steady stream. So it's not on a rocket trajectory like what we saw before. It's starting to flatten a little, but the more that we open it up and more people gathering, the more chances, and that's what I have to admit, the more chances that this virus can transmit to others.
Right, it's definitely a numbers game.
It is a numbers game, and but we're doing the best that we can to get it out there. And we realize it's not easy, but we're going to try to do it in a way that everyone is safe, and we'll get people back together. I would, part of me, I'm a little disappointed, because I was hoping that the governor would relax it a little bit for Mother's Day that's coming up, but it is a different world out there right now.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so our next question comes from Sadie, and Sadie asks, are you worried about how different the world will be even after COVID-19 has ended?
I see I'm an optimist. I like seeing the positives come out of it. And yes, I think there will be some differences, but I truly believe that we're going to overcome a lot of this, because our country's overcome a lot in its history, in its short history. And it'll take time, but I think one of the things that you will definitely see is a lot more technology driven type economy that's going on, a lot more creativity and innovation that's going to happen even in our retail shopping experience, our restaurant experiences, how we even interact with one another too. I hope, I seriously hope that the days of shaking hands or slapping someone on the back or giving each other a hug doesn't go by the wayside, because we need that type of human touch and connection to one another. So overall, I am seeing a lot of positives that could come out of it, and I'm also being realistic too that it'll be some changes, but I believe in our country and we will overcome a lot of it, and our city is strong and we've already done a great job.
Alrighty, our next question comes from Danielle, and she's wondering, what do you think the traits that someone needs to have in order to become a politician? Personality traits.
Personality traits. Helps to have a winning smile, and I love people that have a sense of humor. But in this job, there's no one defining trait. Having a good background, and this is why I'm such a strong supporter of education in general and our school system. Having that diverse type background, where in high school, in the whole school system, K through 12 school system, building the foundation, going to college where you're getting a chance to experience not just what you're going to be majoring in, but also other type of fields where you get a chance to experience it. You grow as a person, and it's then with politics, having that ability to speak, having that ability to think creatively, having that ability to analyze data. That's what is going to be needed for not just mayor, but legislative positions like the city council, state rep, state senator, in Congress. Because, one of the things that I find truly frustrating is sometimes people will just take a position and it's the talking points. And you know what? Scientists have data, and let's take a look at their data, incorporate it into your talking points, and really flush out what our society really needs. Let's get together, work together, forget these party labels. And that's the one good thing that we have been seeing about this crisis. People don't care whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Green Party, whether you're a Martian. What they care about is how we're all working together to get through this crisis. And that's what government really should be about. And sometimes, that craziness out of Washington, D.C., you forget about that. But that's not what I believe in. And that's not what I see at the local level, especially in our backyards. I'm always looking for the good in people, but that's some of the traits that I'd want to see in a politician and I think would make a good politician.
Can you talk a little bit more about the difference between like federal government, state government, local government? Because I think sometimes we tend to just like lump them all together, but they can actually be very different.
Absolutely, very, very different. And, it goes back to a lot of our days in school with the civics lessons that we had. Everyone, in our generation remembers those crazy commercials on Saturday, how a bill becomes a law with that catchy song, the cartoon of, the bill sitting on the steps of Congress. But, in all three different dynamics, whether it's local, state, or even federal, the principles are the same. You have a chief executive, whether it's the president, the governor, or a mayor. You have a legislative body, whether it's Congress, your General Assembly at the State House, or your council, State House, at Cranston, and you also have a judicial branch, what's a federal court, state court, or we have municipal court. And a lot of that setup is the framework how our, framers of the Constitution laid it out. We handle, the only difference is we handle different type of priority areas. Federal tends to be a lot more the national issues that cross the state lines. Rhode Island government deals with, only issues in Rhode Island, can only pass laws that impact Rhode Island. Cranston, has a mix, and, while everything is Cranston centric, all of us work together, and, we have to also enforce all the laws too. So it's a big mix. And what I also see is a lot of times we get the calls from all the residents to our office, regardless of whether it's a local issue, state issue, or federal issue. But as mayor and my staff also, even if it's not our issue, we own the call and we'll try to get them some information, or at least get them into, say, Senator Reid's office, Senator Whitehouse's office, if it's an immigration issue, or, if it's a state issue because it's a traffic problem on a state road. We'll work with them to get into, traffic DOT at the state level to see if they can be helped. We'll work with the state rep or state senator, on that issue for that resident. Or if it's a local, they'll call us. Oh, we've got a street light that's out, or a pothole, or this street needs to be paved. They'll call our office. So it's a combination of jurisdictional issues, but we all work well together. And the key is just knowing how to get in touch with each branch of government and who to go to.
Absolutely. Excuse me. All right, our next question comes from Layla. And she wants to know, when will the libraries be back open? I see you, Layla.
That's a question for Mr. Gasha, the director of the libraries. But, Ed is a wonderful director. I can't say enough about him and the whole library system. I've been happy to support the library system and all the innovation that's going on. And even in this time when technically the doors are closed, but you're not closed. I love the fact that you're engaging right now and putting this on Facebook Live so many people can see it and getting a chance to ask me these questions. I was able to also do the virtual story time to read to some of the younger people that are stuck at home right now. And so that's why I love what you're doing in the library system. At some point, we will open it back up. Along with the rest of the city departments. And a lot of it is also working in conjunction with the state Department of Health and principally, as well as the Department of Business Regulation, DEM, for all the different guidances for all the different departments. But it might depend, because some departments might end up opening a little bit later than others. A lot's going to depend on the social distancing guidelines, how many can gather in a larger areas. And we've already tasked all of our directors to start thinking about when we open up. So we don't want to be caught. All of a sudden, the governor the next day is doing it, and we're like screaming, we don't have screens to protect our staff. We're not ready to, for the employees to come back and make sure that they're healthy. And, so we're talking through all of those issues right now. Hopefully it'll be sooner, but it won't be until the governor kind of relaxes that social gathering number and limitations. So that way, we get enough people that can come in a safe room, safe department.
Well, thank you. You know that we all appreciate your support at the library. And thank you, Layla, for asking that question. All right, our next question is from Madison, and she was wondering, I think you touched a little bit on it earlier, but do you work with Gina Raimondo and others at the state level on this COVID-19 crisis? And what does that sort of look like for you as mayor?
Yeah, we definitely do. And the governor reaches out to us. We are on a daily call, a standing daily call with the governor's office every day. And, the governor also toured in Cranston with me that old Citizens Bank building that's on Sakanasa Crossroad, because that was converted into a potential surge capacity once the hospitals got overwhelmed, if that would ever happen. So she, toured it with me. But in the meantime, we were working with the National Guard, with all these different other agencies from FEMA on the federal level, all to ensure that that can get up and running in a quick time frame. And, we coordinated with them. So a lot of the back end functions to make something like that happen on a quick time basis, the average person wouldn't see. But to get that up and running, it took a lot of work and a lot of coordination. So yes, we are on the phone, not only just with the governor, but also her staff and all the different department heads, as well as the federal government. So it can vary, because sometimes I could be on the phone personally with the governor a couple times a day, but there could also be times where I don't hear from her for a week, because we're all busy. And a lot of times it's all about information sharing, and we all have respective staffs that can kind of help us get through this crisis and, really implement the policies that we're putting together.
Thank you for sharing that. It's interesting to kind of see what it looks like from behind the scenes, because you're right. Like, for people who aren't involved in that process, it just feels like there was an announcement that there was a field hospital in Cranston, but, all the different moving pieces that go into getting that up and running.
Yeah, and what's kind of cool about it too, I got a chance to visit it all throughout, to really see it from what it was to how it got broken down into like a shell, to the wiring, the equipment that was brought into the tent setup, to when I toured it with the governor. It's amazing, and they did it in a quick time frame, and the work that goes into it is a lot, and the coordination, it's still ongoing. So it's never ending, but it is a lot of work. And, what I would love to see, and I'm not sure if anyone ever did it, a time-lapse video of, going from one to the other. And I think if you ever educate, and that's why I did some of those videos early on and still are doing videos to communicate, it gives, residents at home just a glimpse into the world of what we're doing to help them during this crisis. Because you hear about, the police are out there, but you might not know all the little details they have to do to clean their cruisers, or even though municipal court is closed or the libraries are closed, the back end work that you're doing virtually or on the phone to still serve, the people that expect the services at the libraries, at the courts, or anywhere else.
I wish they did make that time-lapse video. I would have been interested to see that. All right, our next question comes from Chloe. And Chloe is concerned about the economic impacts of COVID-19 and what Cranston might look like in the future.
It is a little bit of scary times right now because we're just in the crisis, and as much as we're a couple months in, it still is just into the crisis because you see a lot of restaurants have closed. They're not doing the takeout only. A good chunk of them are. You've got a lot of the retailers, and especially our pride and joy, Garden City closed. A lot of those shops closed, and you're not used to seeing that. But I know we're going to bounce back, and that's one of the things that I've charged with a lot of my directors and a lot of staff, thinking about not just the restaurant openings, but making sure that we're a partner for those retailers too. They're trying to interpret the governor's executive orders that come down, and a lot of times they're coming to us, and we're the ones running it up the chain to the Department of Business Regulations because we have the contacts there on their behalf so that we can provide general guidance to everyone else. We're working with different organizations, the Hospitality Association, about different creative ways to kind of help out our tourism industry, our restaurant industry. We're making sure that even medical professionals, as part of this next wave, from dentists, doctors, can open safely. So there's going to be a lot that we're going to have to do in the coming weeks, coming days and weeks ahead to ensure that everyone can get back to, operating to the best extent possible, a sense of normalcy.
I think we're optimistic.
Yeah,
Always a good thing to be.
You have to be.
Alrighty. So do you have any advice? We have a lot of teens in Cranston with a lot of different passions and they love to be involved. Do you have any advice for teens that are looking to sort of take a next step, become more involved with their community, and maybe potentially think about going into public service?
Sure. There are so many different ways for students to get involved. There's internship opportunities. In fact, when I was going through college and law school, I took advantage of the state government internship opportunities during the summer. So, as a lawyer, one of the first placements they had was I was in the general counsel's office at the Department of Corrections. And then my next year, I was positioned with, a judge in federal court. So there are different experiences that you can gain through internships. And I know right now, say at East or West, there are different opportunities that the students can take advantage of. I know at Career and Tech, there are definitely different professional experiences where they can even get credit. Now's the time. Take those opportunities to see if there's internships or even the opportunity to volunteer in government, volunteer at a community-based organization to give back. And we've got plenty of them in Cranston. One of the ones that I've been very close with, especially now during this crisis, is CCAP, our Comprehensive Community Action Plan. Not only are they on the front lines with providing medical services, but they do a lot with the Substance Abuse Task Force, which for some of you that know, my wife serves on that board. They're talking about some of the problems with, teen vaping and what they see, drugs and alcohol, trying to get the information out there. My wife was so proud when that task force was able to get Chris Herron to Cranston East and talk about his struggles. What was moving about that? There was a lot of teens that were there, a lot of teens that were involved, a lot of teens that were engaged, but they can see how just one voice sharing their experience can make an impact. And we had hundreds of students in that auditorium, hundreds of adults in it. You could hear a pin drop. But that's where getting involved, getting engaged, helping, sitting on a task force, doing internships, volunteering for organizations, or even in Cranston, there are different boards that they can serve on. And if they're interested, shoot, hit me up. I can tell you some of the, boards that are out there. It's actually some of the boards are even on our city website. Find out if you want to get appointed. Let me know, and we'll do an interview. We'll shoot me your resume, and we'll happily entertain possibility of putting you on a board. And why not? You've got great ideas too, and now's the time that might stoke your passion. That hey, it's not as bad as the media says this is, and one, I think I'd like to do this, and maybe I'd like to study this. So that's how the different ways to kind of get involved and actively get involved too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to say sort of like one last thing that you would like to convey to the youth of Cranston during this very tumultuous time.
All I can say is be positive, stay strong, stay healthy, stay safe. Check on your neighbors, check on your grandparents, check on your family members. In these difficult times, whether you're checking in person, which it depends, or virtually, having that connection is more important than ever. And I'm proud of what I've been seeing going on in our city, proud of all the great work that you're doing, from social distancing to helping one another with even, I've seen like the birthday drive-bys, or, the fun activities that you're coming up with to stay, engaged with one another. Be creative at this time, and know that, I really appreciate what you're doing to make our city, Cranston, strong. You're an important part of the solution, and I can't say enough. Thank you for what you're doing to make our city one of the best places to live in America, because that's what it is. It's you and the people.
Well, Mayor Fung, thank you so much for being here with us today. And for all of you who listened in, thank you so much. If you ever need anything, the library is closed, but we're still here for you. So thank you again, Mayor Fung. We really appreciate you coming out today.
You're welcome. Have a great day, everyone.